Hello students of class 7th. Today's presentation is in continuation with the first chapter of Science, Nutrition in Plants. This is the fifth part of the first chapter, Nutrition in Plants of Science. So students, there arises a very important question. Photosynthesis produces carbohydrates, that is, the only product produced by the process of photosynthesis is glucose, which is again a carbohydrate. The glucose gets converted into starch and it is stored in the leaves of the plants. So starch is also a carbohydrate. But while we are talking about nutrients, we are talking about various other nutrients as well. For example, we are talking about vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, and so many other things. So how do plants get the other nutrients? Because photosynthesis is only able to provide it carbohydrates. So what about the other nutrients? Now we will talk about various ways by which plants get different nutrients. So the first method is photosynthesis, by which it prepares its own food. And which type of nutrient does the plant get through photosynthesis? It gets carbohydrates, and carbohydrates contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, which I have told you earlier also. So now the next source from where plant gets its nutrients is the soil. Soil contains a lot of minerals which are important for plant growth and development. The minerals present in soil are phosphorus, nitrogen, sulfur, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and so on. So we can say that there are a lot of minerals which are present in dissolved form, because soil contains water, and this water is dissolved in that water are present all these minerals which we are talking about. And how do plants take these minerals from the water? The plants get them through their root hairs. If we look at the plant, the root develops tiny hairs. So students, these are the root hairs. These root hairs, what they do, they absorb water from the soil, and this water contains a lot of minerals in dissolved form. Now some of these minerals are needed by the plants in small quantities and they are called micronutrients, whereas some minerals are needed in large quantities and they are called macronutrients. So soil is the reservoir for both micro and macronutrients for the plants. That is why you see the quality of the plant directly depends on the quality of the soil. So soil is a very important source from where plants get a lot of nutrients. Third is nitrogen fixing bacteria. How these bacteria help the plants? Now nitrogen is a macronutrient for plants, that is, plant needs nitrogen in a large quantity, but nitrogen doesn't exist in the soil naturally, whereas a lot of nitrogen is present in gaseous form in the air. If you look at the composition of air, which you must have studied in your 6th standard also, the composition of air in the atmosphere, you will see that it contains 78% of nitrogen. So a lot of nitrogen is present in the atmosphere. But unfortunately, plants cannot intake nitrogen from the atmosphere directly. So there are certain bacteria which convert the atmospheric nitrogen from the air and fix them into the soil, and this nitrogen in turn is taken up by the plants. Okay. So the fourth and the last source is fertilizers. These fertilizers are chemical substances which enrich the soil with a lot of nutrients. Whenever you have to improve the quality of plant, you may see that whenever the farmers or the gardener wants to improve the quality of the plant, what they do, they supply fertilizers to the soil, because these fertilizers give some additional nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, sodium, potassium, etc. to the soil. So that's how quality of the soil improves. Okay, and plants will also get these nutrients, and the quality of the plant, the health of the plant also improves. So these all are some of the ways by which plants gets a variety of nutrients which are needed for their growth and development. So photosynthesis, soil, nitrogen fixing bacteria, and fertilizers, all these are the sources of nutrients for the plants for their healthy growth and development. Students, we saw how plants prepare their own food and in what form they store the food. Now, I told you about heterotrophic nutrition in plants. Okay, there are two modes of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic. So in plants also there is autotrophic nutrition, which is photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, and the other one is heterotrophic nutrition in plants. So there are plants which depend on other plant or animals for their food. So they are not self-dependent because they cannot perform photosynthesis. So if they can't perform photosynthesis, then they will not be able to perform to prepare their own food. So in that case, they will feed on some other plant or some other animal. They lack chlorophyll. They don't have chlorophyll, or they have very less chlorophyll, because when they lack chlorophyll, they will not be able to perform photosynthesis, and therefore these plants cannot prepare their own food. Hence they are heterotrophic in nature. Students, in our next video, I will be explaining you different types of heterotrophic plants, that is the parasitic, saprotrophic. We have already discussed them in brief in our previous videos, but in next video I am going to explain you in detail the different types of heterotrophic plants. Hope you have understood whatever I have taught you in this video. Please students, go through it once again and do your homework on time, and please click the photographs of the homework and send it to the WhatsApp number of the school. Thank you for hearing me so patiently. Thank you.